Hey folks, you're watching Synthesis Movement. I'm Ken Jenkins, the physical therapist that your mom saw for that back pain she's been having for 12 years since your little sister was born. She had a cesarean section and nobody told her that might disrupt how her back was stabilizing. She's all better now. We've got Brandon here with us. Brandon is the owner of Dead Ahead Tattoo, a terrific tattoo artist, a brilliant dad, and one of the greatest, just nicest guys that I know. So he's here to do a little bit of fixed hip series. If you saw our fixed shoulder series, this is going to be very familiar. We're doing a lot of the same activities, but we're just focusing on the lower body now. This is the one that I've used most often to help with hip and knee pain, with back pain. It kind of covers the gamut. If we're having any issues basically between the ankles and the ribs, we're going to address it today. So without further ado, we're going to get started. We've got 4 big movements here, and the common theme for all of them is this knee, hip, shoulder are stacked in a nice straight line. If you lose this position, you've probably lost the thread. We need to reestablish that stability. You'll remember this one if you've been following along with our other patterns. When we did our core control lower series, we visited this position a few times in our seatbelt series, getting that established position. Now we're going to utilize it in a loaded pattern. So we'll start with our purple sparkly princess ball, $1 from the Target bin, okay? We're gonna use that as a little bit of a guide. We're gonna get a little squeeze between the thighs. We're not throwing it up down into our groin, really getting uncomfortable with it. We're just having it a little bit off the ground, so we have to maintain a little tension towards midline. I'm gonna get my whole system stacked up. We're gonna have the shoulder, hip, knee, nice one long straight line. And then what I like to do is throw the thumbs right against the ribs, pinkies right against the hip crest. From here, I'm gonna lean back as far as I can under control without losing position of the rib cage, without losing position of the hips, finding my end range and working back out of that. I wanna use the breath to help with this motion so I'm not holding the breath the whole time. I'm gonna breathe out as I lean back. Breathing in and come forward. If it's feeling pretty good, if you're feeling very controlled here and you can go really far through the range, we can straighten the toes and we can really lay it on back. That's not a today thing, all right? That's a down the road thing. So let's see Brandon knock those out, give it reps. So you can see he's got good position, got the thumbs on the ribs, got the pinkies on the hip crests. He's gonna lean back. We're gonna just see how that's feeling. Fantastic. So as he kind of gets back and it starts to get a little shaky, we found our end range position. We'll stay just short of that where we can control it through the whole range. We're breathing out on the way back, in on the way forward, maintaining control. We've got the primary worker here. We're getting the quads, the front of the thigh working really hard. But we've got the butts and the guts. Those are also having to work really hard to stabilize and give us something to work against. Oh, fantastic. So that's our Nordic quadricep curl. We'll move on from that one. I'll sink into that. Now we've got our furniture sliders. Very complicated piece of equipment here. Be careful. We're gonna put that up against the wall. From that position, we come down to hands and knees. I'm gonna reach back for that disc. I'm gonna slide it up the wall until I've got, again, a nice straight line. Shoulder, hip, and knee are stacked. I'm not rotating off and I'm not shifting off to the side. I'm staying loaded through my frame so I feel that I have to work through the core here. The whole trunk is active. My spine is nice and long. My eyes are down. From here, I'm gonna rotate the leg out. At end range, I'm not letting the hips flare up towards the ceiling. I'm staying packed down. Just the leg is rotating. And then I'm gonna breathe in. I'm gonna breathe out while I wring out the towel. I'll come to midline, I'll rotate in. Rotating as far as I can. We're gonna hit around 6 of those on each side. We may catch a little cramp around the foot, around the hips. We wanna feel those deep rotators around the femoral head, really pulling that socket tight, pulling those muscles into the body, pulling that femoral head into the capsule. Let's see him up.
All right.
couple little fine-tuning pieces. We're gonna make sure that we're pulling the hips up a little bit. Good, so we got a nice flat back. And then we want this disc not necessarily at the ball of the foot. I'm gonna pull your foot away from the ball. We want it right in the middle of the foot, so we've got full contact of the whole thing. We're trying to get this knee nice and straight, and we can actually bring this leg down just a little bit, right there. So now we've got this nice straight line, right up the body, and he's gonna rotate that leg out to this outside. When we get to that outside piece, this hip wants to climb, it wants to rotate up, so your job is just to hold it down, hold it in place, then big breath in. He's expanding all the way around, breath out, trying to go a little further with that hip. Ooh, it's gonna wring out the towel real nicely. All those muscles are firing up, getting lit. We're gonna rotate inward, and he's gonna do the same thing. So in particular, his back wants to arch here, so we gotta really emphasize keeping those ribs high, keeping the abs long. He's gonna rotate in, squeeze, breathe out as he goes there. And 6 should be plenty to get this thing juiced. Yeah?
Yep.
Yeah.
Good.
One's good, even one. So that's our kick with a twist. Our third motion here. We're gonna lay down on our back. We're gonna use both discs now. I'm gonna put my heels right in the center of the discs. And I'm gonna bridge up nice and tall. So this knee, hip, shoulder, once again, nice straight line. We can double check our position. We can put our hands along the sides of our bodies, thumbs checking the ribs, fingers checking the hip crests. And we're gonna reach out with the heels, lowering our body down. So the heels go out, the hips come down, that straight line is maintained. Then we have 3 options depending on kind of where we're at with this motion. We can start by just curling the heels back in, resetting our position, bridging back up, and sliding out. Or we can walk the heels in, slowly bringing the hips up, little steps at a time, returning to our position. Last but not least, and as we get pretty comfortable here, we can pull both heels in at the same time. The cramps are real, folks. Be careful. Operate at your own discretion. So we'll let Brandon hit a couple of those. Sound effects.
Sound effects.
They make it more fun.
Yeah.
So he's gonna bridge up nice and tall. We're making sure the hips are driving up, and then we're gonna let those heels come out under control. You'll notice that his toes kind of point up towards the ceiling as we slide out. The hips come down, great position. Oh no, don't lose your disc. And then we'll just curl those in real easy. He's able to curl one foot in, get a little bit of his raise, curl the other foot in, get the other bit. Slide out. We'll curl it in, maybe. We'll just try that one last. That way we can just fall down if we're not feeling it.
Yeah.
Oh, baby, yeah. So, if we can get most of the way up, but we start to lose it at that end range, that's fine. If we need to take a little break here, that's great. What we're aiming for is getting the hamstrings firing really hard while the glutes and abs and quads are providing stability for them to work against. All right, that sounds great. That is our Cumberland drawbridge, and we're gonna finish up with perhaps the most important piece, the one that you've gotta be doing if you're doing any sort of lower extremity loading or patterning. We wanna be doing this. Now, I've got a bench here, conveniently enough. If you don't have a bench at home, then we can use the front of the couch. We can use a low coffee table. Make sure it's not a glass top, okay, folks? We can use whatever we can get our knee up on top of. Even a low chair with an open bottom works just fine. We're gonna put one leg up on top and sneak one leg underneath. Now, I want my leg, my upper thigh perpendicular to my loading surface. My lower leg is gonna be kind of along the bench, and then I'm gonna have that nice straight line all the way up the body, knee, hip, shoulder stacked. My ribs are pulled up and away from the ground. The biggest mistake I see people making is they wanna put this arm way out high. All right, this is not a great position for your shoulder, so we're gonna pull that shoulder in and under us. And then from this position, I'm gonna squeeze my legs together. I'm gonna drive my legs apart with the top leg up and back a little bit. Now I don't wanna rotate here, that's an advanced technique. We're gonna start with just this lift apart, and we're gonna work into more technical pieces as we go. And let's give that a shot. So he's gonna stack up, get into his position, squeezing the legs together. Good. Driving the legs apart. Now, we've got a couple little fine-tuning pieces to work on. You come on back down here. The biggest thing is, if Brandon is looking down at his knees or even just looking down a little bit, necessarily it's gonna take the spine out of the position that we're looking for. So if we can get him looking straight ahead and then really drive the hips through, we'll see that we get a nice long line, and we're gonna change up the patterning and how we're stabilizing this whole system. So we'll get a lot better feedback, a lot better input, especially in that deep front line, which is our main target on this guy. So now try that out. Oh yeah, we got a lot more room, yeah? Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then as we kick this leg up, we also want to give it a little bit of a kick back. So we should feel a little bit more glute med when we do that, a little bit more glute min. Tells us that we're getting a lot on both sides of the hips, working really hard, and we're feeling these obliques, feeling those transversi. All these little rib and hip and spine stabilizers are having to get recruited because we've constrained them into a position where they either have to work or the motion's not gonna happen. How's that feeling? Feeling good?
It feels good.
We have 1, 2 is plenty good. 2 is good. So we want 6 of those on each side. If we're using both legs, we're looking for around 8 reps. If we're using one leg, we're looking for around 6 reps on each side. This fixed hip series is gonna help address back pain, hip pain, knee pain, but more importantly, it's gonna set us up for success on hitting our big patterns, our squats, our hinges, our lunges, and our pistols, okay? If we can get these controls through these systems, then we're gonna be able to access all those archetypal motions more effectively with more power and control than we would otherwise. This has been Synthesis Movement. I hope that you can share this with your family and friends. I hope that it helps you feel healthier. If you've already done this, spread the word, talk to people about it, share it with your neighbors and family and friends and everybody else that'll listen. Hit up the stranger in the Starbucks line, whatever, man. We appreciate you. Be good out there. All right, folks, that was part of the Synthesis Movement system. It is a continuum, so we start at the beginning, the spiral primer, and we work our way along. We'll have more videos in the future pending, feedback and support. If you find something that you need answers to, if you have a burning desire to know more, hit us up in the comments. Like, subscribe, and share all the stuff. Use the algorithm to our advantage to get the word out that this is the program that is helping people feel better. If you found this video useful, and if you can afford it, go to patreon.com/synthesismovement to help us continue this program, continue this project. Join the movement. Let's get people moving well towards health.